More and more people are getting kicked or evicted out of their home, with landlords citing the Ellis Act in order to open up properties to rent on Airbnb so people can make more money. Now, the recent case involved a couple living in West Hollywood, Carrie Krishman and Nina Giovanniti, who were living in a two-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood for years. In fact, since it's a rent-controlled area, they were paying less than $2,000 a month to live in that area. And rent prices have gone up so much that no one can find a two-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood for that amount. Now, their landlord evicted them and said that the landlord was doing it under the Ellis Act, which indicates that you can evict people if you're getting out of the rental business. But that's not what the landlord did. The landlord evicted them, and then weeks later, the couple found that their unit was being rented out on Airbnb for a lot more money. So according to the reports, within weeks, their apartment began appearing on Airbnb, a short-term rental site geared at tourists, for nightly rates that could cost a total of $15,000 a month.
So first of all, I think they should be evicted so that I can get their apartment. So this is a story out of Los Angeles. We obviously do the show out of Los Angeles, although that's not at all obvious. And the prices are out of control. So if you have a rent control place, it is something you hold on to with dearly.
Yes.
And they were in this apartment for 21 months. Now, according to the Ellis Act, you can kick out people who are living in rent control places as long as you're getting out of the business of renting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're going to live in the place, as an example. Because you own it, you're going to live in it.
Or demolish it.
Or you're going to demolish it and start something else. Now, people are not living in it. They're not demolishing it. They're just putting it on Airbnb. And they're like, geez, not only is this, can I get around the rent control laws, but I can make a ton more than if I rented it in the open market if I do Airbnb.
Obviously, we're worried about the slippery slope and everything, but this would be far worse if it was in a city that had a rent problem to begin with. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, no. I love that you brought that up. I mean, rent prices are so ridiculous in West Hollywood right now, and Airbnb is now kicking people out of the affordable housing that they have available to them, and it's off the market. You can't rent these apartments anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, we did a story, I think, recently about this becoming a huge problem in San Francisco. I don't know if it's as big of a problem here, but it honestly doesn't take that big of a percentage of places flipping over to significantly impact. It's not like we're building constant new houses in LA. Like once Playa Vista gets filled up, that's basically it. We don't have much more to do, and it's already a huge problem. I mean, there's certain subcultures that have it even harder. If you're a dog owner or whatever, there's like literally 3 apartments at a time you can go for, and they all cost $7,000 more than the others. And look, Airbnb obviously has a lot of benefits to it. I've used Airbnb from time to time, and it is a nice alternative to hotels in the same way that Uber is a nice alternative to taxis. But I would say that the taxi industry being affected in some way, that's one industry. All the people living in a city being affected by an app becoming gigantic is, I think, potentially a much larger problem.
I'm going to be the bad guy here because I'm the dirty capitalist.
No, I actually am probably going to make the same point as you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So first of all, I don't really believe in rent control.
Get the fuck out of here. I totally believe in rent control.
Okay.
I totally do.
No, it disrupts the market, and so it has consequences. So if you have rent control for a significant portion of the city, what does that do? It pushes up the prices in other parts of the city. So because people sit in rent control and they never leave. So because of that, the people who don't have rent control, sometimes their prices go up unnaturally. So messing around with the market in that way, I just don't agree with. And so now that doesn't mean you can't have affordable housing. Affordable housing is a different situation. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, look, if I'm the property owner, I want to make more money. And why am the government is forcing me, taking my property in a sense, if I can only charge $2,000 instead of $15,000, that's $13,000 a month the government's preventing me from making.
I understand what you're saying, but there are other things that you have to take into consideration. So right now, if you are in the position that John and I are in, for instance, and you don't live in a home and you can't afford a home, you have no other option but to rent an apartment, right?
Yeah, that's called sad day for you.
Okay, but what do you do?
I'm kidding.
But what do you do? Okay, so that's good. All right, so I live in a rent-controlled area, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not moving out of my tiny little apartment because I know that if I do, I'm going to have to pay for the exact same type of unit. I'm going to have to pay at least $400 more a month, right?
See, but that perverts the market.
It perverts the market, but what happens to the people who can't afford homes? There are no cost controls for rentals.
Well, if they're not already in a rent-controlled apartment, it might make their apartment more expensive.
Well, but also we can't. Look, because we do a lot of videos, in each video we tend to look at a policy, but policies don't exist by themselves. They exist in a constellation of other policies. And so we have rent control, which perverts the market in a way that's supposed to be pro-consumer, whether it actually has an effect or not, it's supposed to be. At the same time, we have the ability of large banks to buy up every house in an entire region and refuse to sell them, artificially raising the cost of housing.
Thank you,
It's
yes.
those sorts of things. If you're going to allow the market to be corrupted in the favor of big businesses, maybe you do need to also have it corrupted in the favor of people.
I agree with you. So if you change the whole system, sorry, Cenk.
Sad
if you
day for
change
you.
The whole system,
Sad day for you.
Well, I'm not the banker doing that. It's not a sad day for me.
If you change the whole system and you regulate the banks to the point where they can't hold on to foreclosures and then slowly, one by one, release those foreclosures into the market, so
Perverting
there's
the market.
freaking bidding wars, and it artificially inflates the price of the home, well then, okay, now we're having a conversation. Right now, the banks are controlling the housing market. There will be another bubble. There's no question about that whatsoever.
You guys are yelling at me like I disagree. I totally agree. I'll take that deal any second. Yes, we break up the monopolies, which are, you go all the way back to Adam Smith. Monopolies destroy free markets. So if you actually care about free markets, you would break up the monopoly power of the banks so that they couldn't do the maneuvers that you guys are talking about. And you also wouldn't have rent control. I just want to get to a better system, not one that perverts it on both ends.
Yeah. No. If there's no perversion on one end, then and we get rid of perversion completely, then that's one thing. But we don't have that. Like right now, everything is in the favor of the corporations and the banks. And housing, it hits a nerve with me because I have a good job. Like, I have a great job, right? And the fact that I can't get out of a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what people who are in a worse financial situation than me are doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and just so that you don't think this is the only example or whatever, I mean, there's other, like, many places have a limitation on how big buildings can be, how high buildings can be in certain neighborhoods in LA. And so that's a reason why all of a sudden you don't just have a building with 1,000 new apartments pop up. It's because Culver City decides we don't want anything higher than 2 stories in the whole place.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of little laws like that make it hard to fix the fundamental problem of there not being enough places to live in LA and too many people coming in who want to live here.
Exactly.
I think the most surprising part of this story is that TYT came out against perversion.
I know. When I heard perversion
rare.
from both ends, I was like, oh yeah, really?
Oh, no.